Hello, I'm Heather Falconer, Assistant Professor of Professional and Technical Writing at the University of Maine in Orono, and co-chair of AWAC's Research and Publications Committee. Much of my research and teaching focuses on how individuals read, write, and think within a wide range of professions. How does the way a scientist communicates research findings differ, say, from that of a sociologist? How does a technical writer translate complicated engineering concepts in a way that a layperson can understand? I'm interested in how who we are and where we come from influences how we read and write, as well as how reading and writing influence who we become. I tend to think of my research as interdisciplinary, with a primary focus on the relationship of reading and writing to other aspects of our lived worlds. My work explores the social dynamics of writing, the ways culture and discipline and pedagogy influence not only how we receive text, but how we compose them. I look at this work with an eye towards social justice and equity, how we are or are not being inclusive in writing spaces, as well as how we can be accountable to those who've been historically marginalized in these spaces. While much of my research is focused on race and gender in STEM disciplines, and the impacts of educational practices on minoritized students in academic spaces, I also conduct research related to the experiences of neurodivergent students. My goal is to identify practices that non-writing specialists can use to reduce the obstacles students experience when learning to read and write as members of a disciplinary community. Diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice are at the core of all the research I do, in terms of focus area as well as methodology. I've experienced firsthand the impact of inequity as a student, what it's like to pursue an undergraduate degree in science as a woman, as a first-generation college student, as an individual with hidden disabilities. Research is deeply personal, and working on projects that can make others' educational experiences more welcome is what sustains my energy. I want to offer practical solutions for educational spaces to help reduce the friction, to remove as many obstacles to learning as is possible, and remediate disciplinary spaces that, consciously or not, are structured to keep certain people out. For the last decade, my research has focused on the lived experiences of women and Black and Latinx students participating in undergraduate research in STEM. Through in-depth, longitudinal, qualitative case study, I've documented their experiences navigating the reading and writing practices of their field and the impact of these experiences on their sense of self. By listening closely to their stories and believing what they have to tell me, I've learned about strategies for teaching and mentoring that can help historically underrepresented students in STEM feel more welcome. In my new research with neurodivergent students, I'm thinking actively about equity and inclusion as it relates to the construction of knowledge. Rather than collect student data and analyze it on my own, I'm working with students as co-researchers through participatory action research to make meaning of their experiences and foster agency. That work will extend to co-authoring materials so that they receive professional acknowledgement on their contributions to knowledge as well. Being an AWAC member has enormous benefits for me, not least of which is access to a community of peers. Often we are one of the only WAC people on our campuses, and it can get a bit lonely. Being able to meet people through workshops and committees and other opportunities has been fantastic. The WAC community, at least for me, has always been welcoming and generative space. And AWAC as an organization is no different. I was lucky enough to be part of building AWAC early on. What drew me to it was hearing folks like Michelle Cox and Dan Meltzer and so many other scholars I respect talk about the potential of the organization and the types of supports it could offer people in a wide variety of demographics. I was really drawn to the grassroots inclusive approach of organizing and the aim of being a collective, not a hierarchical, rigid institution as such. Since those early days, I've seen this organization stay true to those initial organizing principles and seeing many of the early projects come to fruition. That is incredibly rewarding. I love that anyone can join and be part of committees and workshops. To me, that's what collaborative efforts are all about. Learning from people who may view the world differently from you and finding creative opportunities to enact change together. I know there are a lot of differing opinions about the state of WAC, what it's done or can do, etc. I personally would like to see WAC scholars do a deeper investigation into the impacts of disciplinary epistemologies and how that impacts equity, inclusion, and justice. I think we can enact more change in these spaces than we currently do, but how to do that work is still a bit nebulous. I also think we need to do more PR work. Almost every time I meet faculty in other fields, especially in STEM, they talk about how no one taught them to teach disciplinary writing, but they understand there's value in doing so, but they don't know where to start. While that will mean I always have work to do, it also means that somehow the scholarship isn't finding its way to the people who want or need it most. I'd like to see more large-scale work on that happen.